You typed it. You retyped it. You read it back 3 times. You added an exclamation mark. You removed the exclamation mark. You considered a period. You decided against the period. You read it again. You wondered if the lowercase felt too casual. You wondered if the capital felt too formal. And now, 12 minutes later, you have sent a 6-word message that a different person would have sent in under 10 seconds. And here is the strange part. You are not embarrassed by the time it took. You are wondering instead why your nervous system treated it like a small surgery, and what the rest of the world seems to know that you do not. Before we go anywhere else, I want to tell you something plainly. You are not overreacting. You are not anxious in a clinical way that needs a name. You are not broken by the dating app generation, or by your phone, or by your attachment style. What is happening when you spend 12 minutes on 6 words is not a malfunction. It is, in fact, one of the most reasonable responses your mind can have to a very strange situation we have all been forced into, and almost no one has named. That situation is this. We are now expected every single day to communicate something delicate, something nuanced, something emotionally important through a 6 by 3 inch glass rectangle in writing with no tone, no face, no body. And we are expected to do it casually, as if it were nothing. It is not nothing. It has never been nothing. And the part of you that knows it is not nothing is the part of you that ends up rewriting the message 4 times before sending it. So tonight, I am not going to tell you to just hit send. I am going to explain why your mind treats a text the way it does, and why the care you put into a 6-word message is not anxiety. It is something much older and much more honest than that. Here is something that almost no one names about texting. It is asynchronous. That is the technical word, but the experience is simple. You send, they receive later, they reply later, you receive that reply later. The conversation happens in pieces, separated by gaps. Before texting, asynchronous communication had a name. It was called a letter. And you took your time with letters because you knew the next time the other person heard from you might be days. The medium itself slowed you down, and you allowed it. Texting kept the asynchronous part, but it stripped away the slow part. We turned a slow medium into a fast one without changing the underlying truth, that the message you send arrives without you in it. Just the words, just the punctuation, just the timestamp. Your nervous system, which evolved for face-to-face communication and rich asynchronous communication like letters, is being asked to compress all the care it would normally put into either of those, into a few words on a screen, without your face, without your voice, without the chance to clarify. Of course you overthink it. You are trying to do the work of a face, a voice, and a body, using only 26 letters and a few punctuation marks. The wonder is not that it takes you 12 minutes. The wonder is that anyone ever sends a text in under 10 seconds without thinking it through. They are not better at communicating than you. They are just less aware of how much the medium is missing. There is a second factor that turns a slow problem into a sharp one. Your phone is not a letter. Your phone is a feedback loop. When you write a letter, you can put it down, walk away, come back. The letter does not blink at you. It does not show you that the recipient is typing, then not typing, then typing again. It does not deliver a notification when they read it, leaving you to wonder why they read it 3 hours ago and have not replied. The phone keeps the door open after you send. The conversation never quite closes. Even after you put the phone down, a part of your mind is still standing in front of it, waiting for the doorbell. That waiting state is exhausting, and it is invisible to everyone except you. So when you spend extra time on the front end, editing, rewriting, adjusting tone, you are not being neurotic. You are trying to reduce the size of the waiting state on the back end. You are doing the math, even if you cannot see the math. That says, the more carefully I send, the less I have to manage what comes after. The overthinking is not anxiety about the message. It is anxiety about the silence after. And that silence, on a phone, is louder than any silence has been in human history, because it is full of seen but not replied, of typing then stopping, of read receipts without context. 12 minutes of editing is a small price to pay for less time spent in that silence. Pay attention to who you overthink text to. Almost certainly, it is not everyone. You can fire off a message to a coworker without a second thought. You can text your dentist's office in 5 seconds. The overthinking is selective, and it tells you something. The overthinking is reserved for the people whose responses you actually care about. The new partner, the old friend, the parent you are negotiating a complicated relationship with, the boss, the person you are starting to feel something for and have not yet told. In other words, you do not overthink because you are anxious. You overthink because you care. And if you map the people you overthink text to, you will see, almost without exception, that the map is the same as the map of the people who matter to you. That is not a flaw. That is a feature. The reason your dentist's office gets a 5-second text is not because you are emotionally healthy with them. It is because they do not have access to the part of you that can be hurt. The people you overthink for have access. They can land in you. And the part of you that knows that is doing the math every single time about how a sentence might land. Because the wrong sentence to the wrong person is not a typo. It is a small wound that you will both carry. But here is the part nobody tells you. The overthinking is not really about the text. The overthinking is about the moment after you hit send, the moment you lose control of how the message will be received. You are not editing the words. You are pre-managing a response that does not exist yet, in a person whose face you cannot see, with information you will not get back for hours. That is not a small task. That is a real one. And the person who does it carefully every time is not nervous. They are responsible for how the words land in someone they cannot watch land. Think about what we praise in writing, drafts, editing, revision. We say a writer cares about their craft when they cross out a sentence and rewrite it. We say a poet is patient when they spend an hour on a single line. But when you do exactly the same thing with a text, drafting, editing, rewriting, choosing the right word for the moment, the world calls it overthinking, as if texting somehow exists in a category where care does not apply, where speed equals authenticity. That framing is the lie. Speed is not authenticity. Care is authenticity. The text you sent in 12 minutes has more of you in it than the text someone else fired off in 8 seconds. Because you weighed each word for what it would do inside the person you were sending it to. That is not anxiety. That is craft. That is what care looks like when you cannot deliver it through a face. And the people who receive your texts, the ones who matter, the ones you are doing the work for, they almost always feel it, even if they cannot name it. The text from someone who cares read differently than the text from someone who does not. The care leaves a fingerprint, even on a screen. So when you delete and rewrite, you are not failing at texting. You are taking texting seriously in a world that mostly does not. You are bringing the care of a letter to the speed of a screen. That is not a problem to solve. That is a discipline most people will not develop. Something shifts in how you relate to texting as you get older. The behavior stays. The relationship to the behavior changes. In your 20s, the overthinking was loud. You showed your phone to friends and asked, "Does this sound weird?" You waited 5 minutes after they read it, then 20, then an hour, then refreshed the conversation 8 times in case you had missed something. The investment was visible to everyone, including you. In your 30s, the overthinking quieted, but did not stop. You stopped asking other people if your text sounded weird. You started trusting your own ear. The drafting got faster. The agonizing got shorter. But the care, the actual care, did not decrease. It just moved underground. By your 40s, the overthinking is quiet enough that you barely notice you are doing it. You have learned which messages need 10 seconds and which need 10 minutes. You have learned to wait 24 hours before responding to certain people. You have learned that some texts deserve a phone call instead, and that some phone calls deserve a visit. The texting mind grows up. It becomes less about reducing anxiety and more about choosing the right medium for the moment. Some moments are texts, some are not. The wisdom of knowing the difference is the slow gift of 1,000 carefully edited messages. And the people who receive your texts at 50 receive something different than the people who received your texts at 22. Not less care, more precision. The care has been refined into something almost invisible and almost entirely accurate. Here is the layer most people miss. The editing is not just about the message. It is also about you. Each time you reread the message before sending, you are also rereading something in yourself. You are checking, does this version of me feel right? Is this what I want to say, or what I am afraid not to say? Am I hiding something? Am I performing? Am I being clear, or am I being defensive? That is regulation. That is your nervous system using the editing process to align you with yourself before you put your words into the world. Most people skip this step. They send the first draft. They live with the consequences. They wonder later why they said what they said. You do not skip the step. You take the long way through it. And on the other side, what you send is not just clearer, it is more honest. Because the version of you who hits send is the version you actually meant to be in the conversation. That is not a flaw. That is integrity. The slow version of you is more honest than the fast one. And honesty, in any medium, is worth 12 minutes. You are not failing at speed. You are succeeding at presence. In writing, on a screen, to someone who matters. That is not a small thing. That is the entire point. Imagine, for a moment, that you are not sending a text. You are writing a letter, pen on paper, ink that cannot be deleted. The kind of letter that will travel across distances and arrive in someone's hand days later. Unchangeable, exactly as you wrote it. Of course you would take time. Of course you would choose your words. Of course you would put the pen down between sentences. Nobody would mock a letter writer for thinking carefully before sealing the envelope. That care is not gone, just because the medium got faster. Your nervous system did not get the memo that texts are supposed to be casual. Your nervous system still knows what it is doing when it sends words to someone who matters. It is still writing the letter. The pen just looks different now. And the 12 minutes you took to write 6 words, they were not wasted. They were the slow stretch of you choosing what kind of person to be in someone else's hands. You are not overthinking. You are writing a letter, even if the screen calls it something faster. So if tonight you spent 12 minutes on 6 words, or 20 minutes on a paragraph you finally just sent, or an hour on a message you never quite sent at all, I am not going to tell you to fix it. I am not going to tell you to just hit send. I am not going to suggest a strategy or a mantra or a way to push past the editing impulse. Because the editing is not the problem. The editing is the love. It is the love showing up in a medium that did not exist a generation ago. It is your nervous system, refusing to treat the people you care about as someone you can fire off a sentence to without thinking. It is the part of you that remembers, somehow, that words can land. And once they land, they stay. You are not anxious. You are accountable. You are the kind of person who knows that a careless message can reshape a relationship, and you are unwilling to let that happen because the medium asked you to be quick. And the people who receive your messages, the ones who matter, the ones you do the work for, they feel the difference, even if they never say it, even if they cannot name what makes a text from you different from a text from someone else. They feel it. The care leaves a fingerprint. You are allowed to take 12 minutes. You are allowed to take an hour. You are allowed to draft, delete, rewrite, and rewrite again. You are allowed to sit with the message for a day before sending it. None of that is failure. All of it is fluency. Fluency in a language nobody taught you. A language with no tone, no face, no body. A language that has to carry tenderness in 26 letters and a few punctuation marks. And you have been quietly mastering it, message by message, for years. Not because anyone told you to, but because the people on the other end of the screen mattered enough to do it well. The 12 minutes are not anxiety. The 12 minutes are how love writes itself in the medium it has been given. And the medium is small, and the love is large. And the math, every time, comes out the same. You are not overthinking the message. You are loving carefully in a medium that does not know how to receive that kind of love yet. And one day, when someone tells you to stop overthinking your texts, you will know what to say back, or you will know not to say anything, because the people who tell you to stop are the people who do not understand what you are doing in the first place. And the people who do understand, those are the people you write to so carefully in the first place. Take your 12 minutes. Take your hour. Take whatever the message asks of you. The people on the other end of those messages are luckier than they will ever know. And you are allowed to be the kind of person who takes that long.